Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. On Apple, we recommend Apple Podcasts. On Android, we recommend Spotify. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel for all your content across the South Florida sports spectrum. Also, Off the Floor, that's our Discord server. You would want to be on there right now. The most heat, information, and conversation. The link is right here in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge. It's called Off the Floor. Also, check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your $5. You get $50 in free lineups. They'll all be on the Explore page. Legal in the state of Florida. We call it Daily Fantasy Simplified. NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL. We got all 4 sports going right now. This is the best time to be on Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleeping paths or allowed to morning. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Programming notes before we get to today's floor plan. I'm actually still up in Orlando. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick in the 5 Reasons Sports. I got Brady Hawk. You can follow me at Brady Hawk 305. I want to make sure that you are checking out the On SI page for the Miami Heat. We actually also run the Orlando Magic page. So both teams last night, but plenty of stories up there, including Brady's takeaways from last night, the grades that went up from major passes, and more. And also, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know already that Terry Rozier, the Miami Heat, was arrested this morning, I believe, in Orlando, because the team wasn't supposed to travel to Memphis until later this afternoon. We're still following that story. We did want to do what's going to become a custom for us, one of our sort of day after podcasts, to get into one issue from the game before, or the game the night before. So we want to do the basketball here. We're not ignoring the Rozier situation. Honestly, I just want to get more information on it before we podcast. So we'll probably have something on it later today. You can follow our coverage on social media in the interim. Brady and I are going to get into one issue from the previous night. I think that's the way we're going to handle some of these podcasts. They'll likely be short. But I wrote on this last night, and I assumed that this was going to be a fan topic, a talking point. Where was Kel'el Ware at the end of that game? And Erik Spoelstra was asked about it. And just for context, Ware didn't play a lot last night. And Spoelstra actually used that as a reason why he did not include him in his closing lineup, although we have said that we didn't expect Spoelstra to use Ware in many closing lineups to start the season. Ware did not start the game. Nikola Jovic did. Would we say that, before we go forward here, would we say, Brady, that Nico struggled the most of the 5 starters last night? Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of thought, I know you were talking about it during the game, that you didn't think he would be closing. They tried it. I mean, they tried to put him out there and see if it would work, and they quickly pulled the plug on that. It felt like he was just he came out the gate playing well, right? Like he had a couple shots. He was 2 for 2 from 3, and it kind of fell off from there. It kind of felt like there was some turnover issues. Defensively, I think, look, ultimately last season, the game that they put out Jovic, Bam, Ware was against the Magic, and one of the main reasons, other than matching their size, was like Jovic makes more sense to match up at a 3 than he does as a big. And what they were doing a lot in this game was not only playing with the 4, they were playing with the 5 defensively, because Bam was guarding Paolo, so Jovic was guarding Wendell. So I just think it was a tough matchup for him, so that they ultimately went another way.
Yeah, so I didn't think he was going to close, and I was saying that during the game. And it was pretty clear the other 4 were going to. Davion was playing at a very high level last night. He ended up, I think, with 12 assists, 1 turnover, 16 points. I thought he was their best player for long stretches of that game. Norm Powell did what we expect Norm Powell to do. If you have not been watching Norm Powell in preseason, that's who he is. He just scores easy. That's it. Like there's not a lot of complications to it. He knows how to get off the ball. He had 28 in his opening night game. Bam was going to close. Obviously, I do want to get into some of the stuff that happened late in that game. Not his best closing stretch. He had a very strong third quarter, I thought, particularly on the defensive end. I didn't think he closed particularly well. And then, of course, Wiggins, Spoelstra is going to use him as a closer most of the time. And then the question was the fifth. And I tweeted, actually, so just to say that I was not calling for Ware, I said, will it be Jaquez? And that's who Spoelstra ultimately went with. Because, and again, to go forward here, but before we go forward, Jaime was one of their better players last night, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially, I mean, he was, I think, 6 of 6 from 2, and I think he missed like the 1-3 shot, so he was strong in those minutes. But the reason he was playing well was because they used him in those lineups where it was like, okay, you're the guy to kind of create on the ball and you can do your thing. The issue is that we come down to with a lot of these things, he's not somebody you want to play next to your best players, and especially late in the game. Like if you're playing through Powell, Bam, and Wiggins late in the game, you're putting Jaime in a tough spot, honestly, because either he's going to have to play spot up in the corner, or you're telling Powell and these other guys and Bam not to put the ball in their hands late in the game, and Jaime's got the ball in his hands. And we were talking about it last night. There was the possession where he was kind of dribbling, got it like into nowhere for a whole possession, then threw it to Wiggins, and Wiggins hit the 3. So like it worked out on that possession, but there was just like those kind of things where I didn't expect that. I think we even did in our preview. We said like who would close more, Pella or Jaime? I didn't think it would be Jaime just because of that reason, but I guess Spo. What you kind of hinted at a second ago. Spo likes to play guys late in the game that are in a rhythm. He likes to play guys that have out there that have like not fresh legs. Honestly, it's kind of the opposite. It's like working legs, like the legs being used latest. And that's kind of what he did there. But it seems like that's kind of one of these methods that need to be reevaluated in a lot of ways, because it kind of feels like you have to just go matchup based with a lot of these teams when, let's be honest, you're not like if you were like big three, if you're the big three Heat, you can throw who you want out there. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Like you your best players no matter what. You don't worry about matchup. When you're a mediocre basketball team, you kind of have to play the matchup game when it comes down the stretch.
But he's done this now for 17 years. I don't think this is going to change. He has a few trends down the stretch. One is, yes, he will play the group that's in rhythm or the player that's in rhythm. 2, he will not offense-defense sub very often. And 3, he will usually stick with a group that's too long. That's been a consistent thing over the course of time. And so I wasn't surprised that he went to Jaquez. I don't think he could have gone to Jovic. I don't. The problem with Nico last night, you mentioned, it was the turnovers, the 4 turnovers, and a lot of them were just him kind of getting in places he shouldn't have got into. And I didn't look at him as a closer last night, but I did not think he would close with Ware because, A, he wasn't playing him a lot during the game, and Spo's answer at the end of the game. By the way, you mentioned Pella. Pella was unplayable last night. He had 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes, which is one of these consistent things with him. And as much as I've hyped him up, he's going to have to stop that. Like the over-aggression as soon as he comes into the game. I get it. He's a passionate player, but Spo's going to yank him in those deals. Fontecchio played well. Like I wouldn't have hated the idea of Fontecchio closing last night, only because I think he can play off of some of these guys better than Jaquez can. Your thought on that before I get back to Ware? Would that have been nuts? I mean, Simone was good last night, I thought.
He was good, but I mean, we're going to have like this is one of those hindsight decisions when we're talking about Jaime versus Simone. Like Simone could have hit shots down the stretch, maybe, but size-wise, you're still talking about the same things. Like Jovic got pulled. I said this last night. He got pulled on the possession where there was an offensive rebound that Nico led up, and like Spo saw that and was like, "Okay, like I'm pulling you for the rest of the game." But the funny thing about that was like he didn't get fed up enough about the rebound to throw like size in there to start getting rebounds. He said like I'm going to go smaller than you and I'm going to throw Jaime in. But so like there really wasn't a worry about that. But honestly, Fontecchio was playing well. And it was in a weird circumstance too. He's kind of an interesting case from last night because it was like isolation possessions. Yeah. Like it was like some weird shots he was hitting. He was just kind of out of nowhere because he was in like a lot of those lineups where it was like not a lot out there. Like Usually they play their specialists with their better players. So they work off them. Not Fontecchio. It was like, okay, you just play out there in the worst lineup and see what you can create. But yeah, I mean, we could say he could have played, but I just don't think that was changing the trajectory at the end of that game much.
I know I'm digressing a lot, but they lost. Well, look, they had an 8-point lead late, so you can't say they lost the game late in the first quarter, but they lost control of the game with that lineup that Spoelstra put out there, and that is going to have to be reevaluated. I know you guys got into that a little bit last night too, but like the lineup you mentioned where Fontecchio had to do things because they had nobody else to do them. Some of this will get relieved when Tyler is back. Yeah. And they have someone to anchor those units, or they anchor it with Norm. But this idea of having Wiggins anchor it is not where they want to go with it. They had Wiggins trying to create, not something that you want consistently. We've discussed that a lot. And that lineup was just and Drew Smith is not going to create for others. So that was a disaster. But then,
no Powell, no Bam, no Jovic.
You can't do that.
Those three on the bench at the same time without Tyler.
Tyler, no, you can't. Yeah. You can't do that. And I think he will reevaluate that going forward. He tends to make those corrections. But that was bad. But yet they still had an 8-point lead. All right. So on the Ware thing, okay, and then we'll get to the rest of this after the break. Spoelstra was asked about it after the game, and his reasons for it were that he hadn't played a lot, and so he wasn't in rhythm, word that you used, that will fast track him, and that it's going to be basically different night to night. That was essentially where he went with it. So let's talk about it on the other side, because I want to get to when it's going to be, because when Tyler comes back, their closing lineup is going to get even smaller than it was last night. And that's what people need to realize. Like, Tyler will fix the other problem I talked about, which is anchoring some of those bench units over the course of the game, because they'll have more guys to go to that can score, adding Tyler to Powell and, potentially Jovic, Bam, etc. But that's not going to solve the closing lineup issue that they had last night. All right, before we get to that, though, one of the reasons I'm struggling through this podcast is my back is killing me. So I'm in pain, which is why I decided to choose this sponsor. I've got like 3 pillows behind me. 305-800-PAIN, car accident, slip and fall, anything along those lines. Reach out to them 24/7, based in Doral, bilingual, Manny, Danny, their entire team. They will take care of you. Go with people that you can trust. I can tell you, great folks down there. Also really creative social media. So check it out. 305-800-PAIN. On Instagram as well. But again, they will get you the right attorney to help you get your money. Car accident, slip and fall, or anything else in South Florida, that should be your first call. The number is the brand. Again, it's 305-800-PAIN. Okay, so before I get back to the Tyler part, would you have put Ware in there in the last few minutes?
Yeah. And it sounds like, that's one of those things where you say it the next day after you see the result. But I think even at the time, it was kind of a situation where, like I said, it wasn't like there was a clear other option. Like, if you were saying like, okay, well, you were leaning into this specific thing. Like, for example, if I don't know if that's the for sure closing lineup when Tyler comes back, because like you said, yes, it's their 5 best players putting out there on the floor late in the game, but it's tough because you're playing a lot of bigger teams. But if that was the case last night, where it was like, okay, you played your 5 best players, then I can maybe understand it. But it was a case where they just really didn't have a 5th guy, and they had enough offense. And I didn't expect them to have enough offense. The funny thing about the rhythm thing is that also kind of falls back on the whole thing we're talking about, which is like Ware wasn't playing a lot in general. We were talking about last night, like what happened to Ware and Bam as a unit? Like, what happened to them playing them together? That could have been an easy way to kind of, if you put Ware and Bam in earlier, maybe in the 4th, like halfway through the 4th, maybe they can find a rhythm into the late game situation, because ultimately, look, they were a good tandem last season. This isn't something you're forcing. We're not talking about Omer Yurtseven here. Like, we're talking about Kel'el and Bam, who started the second half of the season last year. And yeah, he just could have been like, he's somebody offensively that this isn't like he can get you in a decent offense. I was saying last night, like, when you're not a good offense, at least maybe you can create second chance opportunities for yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, even limiting second chance opportunities on defense is the main thing of putting them in, but maybe you can get some yourself. There just doesn't seem to be a real trust level there at all defensively. No. But it's like you're going to these other options that I just don't think are trustworthy on defense either. And it just seemed like, specifically with that matchup, that's the key word, that matchup. Because look, you're playing a few of these other teams coming forward that we're probably not going to be having the same discussion. Maybe they do get out rebounded, but Memphis goes a little smaller late in the game. New York, you can match up maybe a little bit smaller if you put Bam on Towns late in the game. So you can get away with it in some of these matchups. Orlando, you can't. Like, you had to. They had something going there defensively when they had Bam on Paolo and they were able to switch pretty much 1 through 4. And if you just had your big man, Kel'el, or somebody that can glue to Wendell, you probably would have been in a decent spot. So, and look, that possession where they got the rebound, yes, they would have had an opportunity to tie. But there were also some other defensive issues down the stretch other than that play that I think just could have been better if there was a little bit more willing to switch. Like, I have the one play in my mind. I think it was a little bit earlier than late in the fourth quarter, but where Davion was on Wendell, and Wendell's got the clear rebound and went up and got fouled. Like, that stuff is what's accumulating you to lose the 8-point lead that happened in the fourth quarter anyway.
Well, they're playing a 6'10" small forward. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you can't match up with that team playing so small. I remember that specific play. That was the play where Wendell and everybody else ended up flexing. And I'm like, okay, you're flexing basically because you got caught on a switch there where Davion was. I mean, Bam was in the area, but this plays into the Bam thing too, because look, Bam, I thought struggled down the stretch on both ends. But if you're going to be throwing him out there as the only big, that's going to happen. Look, he tried to make an aggressive play when Wiggins hit ahead to him. That was a critical play in the game. Okay, it ended up with the basket on the other end for Orlando. He tried to make a play. He got swatted. But then on the defensive end, I don't think he was great down the stretch. But again, you're leaving him out there kind of on an island. I mean, Jaquez was good defensively last night, I thought, for the most part, but he's small. Like, he's small to play that position. So I just think that they're going to have to fast track Ware at this point to play in some of those situations. It doesn't mean you go in with the intention of playing him the last 6 minutes all the time. But I think Spo is going to have to break some of his own habits here where he feels like the last 6 minutes have to be the same 5 guys. He did offense defense sub a little bit in the past. Remember Duncan and Iguodala? There were some examples where he would do that, but he doesn't do it a lot. He likes to go with the guys who, as you said, are warm. And Jaquez played well, and he liked, but I'm with you too. Like, Jaime is not, that's not where he's going to be most effective this year. Where he's going to be most effective is where we saw him kind of with the ball in his hands. They put the ball in his hands a lot more than I expected, and he's been good. Not only did he get downhill, but the damn spins worked last night. So I don't want to make this about Jaime. It wasn't his fault he was put in a position, but let's go to the next part of this. Tyler's coming back, and I can't see him playing a lineup. He's going to play Davion, I think, and you can't argue against it. You really can't. He's going to play Norm. He's going to play Tyler. They're going to go with the 3 guards, and you can't tell me he's going to sit Wiggins and play Ware and Bam. He's not, right?
Yeah, it really depends on the matchup thing again, but like you're right.
You say it depends on the matchup thing, but I don't think for him it's going to depend on the matchup thing.
Well, if they're playing in Houston, like I'd hope it depends on the matchup thing. Like you don't like.
I mean, if they're playing in Houston, their center's going to be smaller than Houston's point guard, like right? So I mean, they got Durant playing the 2.
It's insane. They literally have 5 guys in the starting lineup. That would be Miami's backup 5. But
right.
That's what I mean. Like, I think that would be their best closing 5 in terms of talent. Davion, Tyler, Powell, Wiggins, Bam. But it's like we're going to be having a lot of these same discussions. But now the counter to it, which is kind of my overall point, is like you play Ware in a situation like this where it's a gritty, down-the-wire game. Now, if you go to that lineup on a specific game, maybe the offense can outweigh the other stuff. Like, maybe you're not having the second chance opportunity conversation because Tyler and Powell are just able to get absolute buckets late in the game because isn't that really where Spo will go with this? And this is my concern, Brady. Where he's going to go with this is, okay, we're going to try our strength to beat your strength, right? Like, but is it really the Heat's strength? Like, if you're going to go small, like and to beat another team that's bigger, it's typically because you have abundant speed on the roster. Okay, you're getting up and down. You've got a ton of great shooters. Okay, I mean, that lineup, Davion is an improved player. Tyler and Powell are accomplished scorers. Wiggins kind of fits in where he fits in. Wiggins is another one, by the way. It feels like, and I've said this repeatedly, so I wasn't surprised last night, but there are pockets of the game where he's going to get you like a quick 7. He did it last night, right?
where he is as much a rhythm player as anybody they have. Like that is it, right? And then there's going to be other pockets of the game where like, oh, he's dribbling too much. He's sort of getting, and then when he's not, he's getting lost. And so it feels like Spo needs to find like a lineup for Jaquez. He needs to find a lineup for Wiggins. I don't think either of them is a great fit with the closing lineup, to be honest. But I think Spo's going to be somewhat stubborn about the Wiggins thing.
And they just need his wing defense. I mean, if you're talking about closing Hero and Powell, mean, Spo was trying to close Hayward points the last season because he just wanted wing defense on the floor. Wiggins gives you the offensive upside as well, so they'll lean into that. But it does make it tough to see a point. Like, if you could say all things maxed out, like all attributes maxed out, I think Kel'el would close over Davion, like in theory. But Spo's not at that point. I just don't think there's a trust level there enough. So, like, the question was, like, when do we see that happening? Like, when could we – I don't know. I don't know when we could possibly – like, I don't see an outlook where it's like, okay, Ware's going to be closing at this point in the season because Hero's only going to make it tougher. Now, the lineup thing helps if they can find lineup fluidity where they can, like, get everybody into a rhythm and not just, like – because yesterday felt like a trial and error thing. It felt like they were just throwing stuff out there. I mean, Wiggins out there in that lineup by himself was just rough. I want to see more Wiggins with Bam. At least one of them has to be aggressive and throw some shooting out there. And then, like I said before, let Norman run with Kel'el and Jovic specifically. I think that's just kind of the way they should go about this. And they did that in the second half. I mean, they went to Bam and Wiggins. Wiggins in the second half wasn't playing by himself. But them doing that kind of limited Ware. Yeah. So I'm more so curious of, like, my thing I'm going to keep coming back to is playing Bam and Kel'el maybe early fourth quarter, early second quarter together to, like, see what you have in the matchup. And if it's there, you have the ability to come back to it later in the game because they're both into a rhythm because they played earlier that quarter. Like, you have to, if it's about a rhythm thing, you have to lean into it at a certain point to give yourself the chance to go to it, if that makes sense. Like, you have to go to it earlier in the quarter. So I wonder if that's something maybe they can adjust to. But the issue is, I'm looking at this before the game when I see Kel'el's questionable. I don't know what they do if one of them's out. Like, if Kel'el Ware or Bam Adebayo is out of game, I don't see them winning that game. Like, as much as we're talking about Kel'el not closing, he is important to this basketball team. He is extremely important because I don't know what they do. So even in this case, when I say that, I almost think that reasoning is, like, leaves Spo, like, worried about playing the two together because he thinks he has to stagger them this much because he kind of does. Like, he kind of has to do that. So it's tough to overpower them and play them together for long pockets because of that reason. So, yeah, that part of it's an issue. I mean, that's more so not on Spo. That's kind of the roster building part of this. But the big man being so thin might lead into this a little bit.
Yeah, and it also tells you that what they didn't see in Precious, because they might have at least been able to use him for a few minutes. I know there were tax concerns involved with that too, but they took a look at him and basically decided, okay, we don't need to keep him. Vlad Golden would not have helped. Okay, he would not have kept Wendell Carter Jr. off the board. And we'll close with this, which is, if you're going against a team with skilled size, which is what Orlando has, you have real problems because you are leaving, especially if it's just going to be Bam out there by himself. And I was impressed by Orlando last night. I know I've downplayed them a little bit. And look, the Heat were competitive. They had an 8-point lead. They did a lot of good things last night. The shooting was hot early. They were 5 of their first 6 for 3, and then it tailed off. And again, without Tyler, that's going to be something that happens. But I was encouraged by, like I said, by Davion. I thought Fontecchio gave them good minutes. They played a good basketball game. That was a hell of a game to watch up close, especially for an opening night game. I thought both teams were good. But Orlando is going to be a problem because you can tell that Bane already fits, and Suggs, for his first game back, he's something to watch in person, man. Like, defensively, he's really good. He had a couple of sequences. Bane screwed one of them up, but he had a couple of sequences that were just tremendous. So, look, you know where you need to get to here. And as much as I've been critical of some of Ware's motor issues and all that, the Heat are not going to get there unless they have their higher upside players getting those reps and improving in those reps. And I think Spoelstra is going to try to use Kel'el more in those situations, but the Tyler part of this complicates it because they're going to be the smallest closing lineup in the league. They're most nights they're going to be much smaller than their opponent, and it's just something they need to get Kel'el ramped up where he's comfortable with it.
Yeah, I want to ask you because I I was watching the game last night, and I'm saying to myself, like, if this comes down to like a late game situation, I don't trust this team tonight. Like, I didn't trust them in a late game offensive situation. But the question I want to ask you, how much better do you feel about it when Tyler is in that lineup? Like, do you trust them offensively in late game situations differently than maybe you did last season?
I don't know, because he was one of the worst clutch players in the league last year by the numbers. I mean, Norm was one of the better ones, but they couldn't get the ball to Norm in those situations last night. Now, excuse me, hold on one second. I'm going to sneeze. No, it's all right. I'm working through it. This is my closing lineup. No, they will try. Look, Tyler will make things better because he's a good player. Okay, that's really where it is. But if it's going to be give the ball to Tyler and have him create or try to find a pick and roll or that kind of stuff, and then he gets blitzed, okay, well, Norm's going to have to play off of that. And again, to have somebody else to play off of that is positive. But it doesn't fix these other problems that they have. Like, I didn't tweet, like, on our Discord on Off the Floor with about 4 minutes left. I didn't post, they're going to screw this up on offense. I posted, they're going to lose this game on an offensive rebound. I don't know if you saw it, but okay. I said they're going to lose this game on an offensive rebound. And I was wrong. They lost it on like 3 of them. I mean, Wendell Carter Jr. ended up with, 6 over the course of the game. But it was obvious where this was trending because, especially when you have tired legs late in the game, and I know he likes to go with guys who are in rhythm, but if you're smaller and you have tired legs and you have a team with Orlando, again, that seems like they're fairly cohesive early on, one missed box out, one switch where Davion ends up on Wendell Carter Jr., you're going to pay for it. And they paid for it last night. And that's really what cost them the game at the end. It was that. I mean, would they have converted offensively? I don't know, but I did know that they were going to give up an offensive rebound. All right, so we'll see where it goes. Thanks, Brady. Appreciate it. We'll have coverage of the Rozier thing, again, as more information comes out. And there are salary cap and tax ramifications with all that stuff as well, but we're trying to be prudent about it. All right, between my back, my coughing, my everything else, I got to figure out a way to get on the road. Have a good one, Brady.